Test Realm has just released. In my last video I talked about what would be in the Test Realm without actually knowing. And although I was completely joking, King Seal actually made some of the retarded changes that I thought were just way off limits. So without further ado, let's see what they have done. For starters, they actually made our characters look like complete fucking idiots. When I first loaded into the game and hit my ice, his eyes popped through his hood and I swear to God I hit my elbow from laughing so hard. He is now the ugliest ice period. Wizard 101 is calling it a quote-unquote new character experience. Believe it or not, despite how terrible and ugly they made these characters, this is the best change. I can't wait to tell you guys the other dumb things that they made. Other than that, there's not much to go on about here. You can now change your character's appearance for gold. I'm not going to belittle anyone who wanted this, because it was probably for a good reason. King Seal did well listening to the community, but I never expected characters to look this ugly. Next up is the Daily Spiral. It's essentially a service for them to show you things that you should buy. Knowing this game fairly well, I have no doubt that they will show random things that will never be helpful, like random garden items or packs. It also has past and recent events so that anyone who has missed a few days of Whiz can see what has happened. This change is relatively minor. As we all know, PvP is really only for the hardcore Wizard 101 players for the most part. It takes someone who knows the game pretty well to actually do somewhat good in PvP. King Seal however changed it so that you literally won't be able to talk like you used to. Instead you now need to have a specific rank and a specific level, and then on top of that you can only talk to people who are on the same party as you. Any PvP players knows how toxic this can get. I'm certain 90% of player base really did not want or need this change at all. It just sorta appeared in the patch notes. Now lads, as I'm sure you've been waiting, here are the changes to shadow spells. A lot of these we did not need. Firstly, they affect both PvP and PvE despite the problems really only existing within PvP. Nevertheless, here are the changes. Fire from above. 720 840 fire damage and amp, adds 1 plus 25% fire trap raging bull. 700 820 fire damage and amp, minus 30% accuracy debuff to all enemies ice, abominable weaver. 590 710 ice damage and amp, minus 50% shield storm, glowbug squall. 730 storm damage and amp, remove 1 blade from all enemies Rusalka's wrath. 1165 storm damage and amp, plus minus 30% blade weakness to self. Mystic Colossus, remove 1 ward and amp. 450 damage to all enemies life, Hungry Caterpillar. 590 710 life damage and amp. 800 absorb shield death, Call of Kralhu. 595 death drain to all enemies Winged Sorrow. 941,120 death damage to target and amp, minus 30% weakness to all enemies balance, Gaze of Fate. 250 balance damage plus 250 random school damage and amp, plus 25% balance damage global. These are the major changes that I feel like needed to be addressed. Wizard 101 has made a complete fool out of this update, and has not only made their game far worse but has openly dismissed open communication attempts by the general community. Please I beg, revert the shadow changes, make the characters look somewhat decent, and actually be informed about what your players enjoy doing within the game and what they don't. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm afraid I have to give this update a 3 out of 10. I will have the patch notes in the description for you lads, smiley face.